Welcome to the deep dive. So if you're looking at the professional world right now, it feels like there are two things constantly in the headlines.
Right. You've got the just unbelievable speed of AI development on one side.
Yeah, almost hard to keep up. And then the other side is, well, the job shifts, sometimes pretty alarming ones.
Absolutely. And for a lot of people, the reaction is, understandably, a bit of panic. Grab the nearest course, upskill, do whatever it takes to stay relevant.
Right, just trying to find your footing in this new digital economy.
And that desperation, well, it feeds right into this really urgent contradiction that our research materials pointed out.
Okay.
Professionally, we're getting two bits of advice at the same time, and they just don't mesh.
Like what?
Well, on one hand, you're told, be yourself,
Yeah.
right? Bring your unique spark.
Okay, yeah, authenticity.
But then, almost in the next breath, it's blend into the culture, conform, fit the mold.
Ah, okay. Be unique, but also be exactly like everyone else.
Precisely. And this paradox, this tension between being authentic and just conforming, it becomes critical, like really critical, when AI enters the picture.
And that's pretty much our mission for this deep dive. We're trying to unpack the argument that real, lasting human value is, well, it's got to be more than just being a sort of a human checkpoint in an AI system.
Yeah, more than just human in the loop.
Exactly. We need to figure out what the next essential skills actually are, the ones AI can't just replicate tomorrow. Because that old advice, the surface stuff, it's not cutting it anymore. It's not a safety net.
Let's definitely unpack that shift. It's crucial.
Okay, so where should we start? Maybe with that idea that lots of people are still kind of clinging to.
You mean the human in the loop concept, the idea that AI always needs us?
Yeah, exactly. It's this pervasive idea, seems like a bit of a comfort blanket, that no matter how smart the algorithms get, they still need a person involved. The HITL, right. For anyone listening who's maybe new to that acronym, what does it actually mean in practice?
Well, typically, HITL, human in the loop, it just refers to a situation where a human is deliberately put into an automated process.
Okay. For what reason?
Usually for things like quality checks or training the AI, validation, maybe handling weird edge cases the machine just doesn't understand.
So like manually tagging images or confirming an AI's decision, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Or maybe overriding the AI if it's not very confident about its output. It makes us feel a bit safer, right? Because it suggests there's always going to be this necessary role for people.
The source material we looked at throws some cold water on that, doesn't it? It gives a pretty sharp counterpoint.
It really does. The sources basically demand a reality check here. They state it pretty plainly. There are several loops that AI does not need a human to do tasks, and that is widening each day.
Widening each day. Okay, so it's not just theoretical.
No, not at all. This isn't some philosophical debate about whether AI is conscious. It's a practical, technical capability issue. The loop is closing, or widening as the source says, because modern AI is getting much better at things like self-correction. It's incorporating reasoning engines.
Can you give an example? How does that technical change actually remove the need for the human checker?
Sure. So historically, you might have a person reviewing, say, thousands of pieces of data classified by a machine, just checking for accuracy.
Like the quality control step.
Yeah. But now we're seeing systems like multi-agent systems or sophisticated reinforcement learning techniques that allow the AI itself to validate its own output. It can check against the rules and metrics it was given.
So it's checking its own homework, essentially.
Pretty much. For those routine, high-volume tasks, anything you can really define with clear rules or metrics, the machine is now doing that oversight function. And honestly, is doing it faster and cheaper than a person ever could.
Okay, so if the machine's starting to check its own work, then the job of being the checker, that quality assurance layer, it's inherently temporary, isn't it?
That's the logical conclusion.
And we're seeing that technical reality spill over into the commercial and social reality, the job market.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the material is really quite blunt about the urgency here. Connects the dots directly. When you hear about announcements every day of layoffs, the source says this is something that is coming to every industry.
Wow. Okay.
It's presented as a direct consequence of this widening technical ability of AI. So the implication for you, the listener, the learner, is pretty stark.
Which is?
The conversation has to shift. We need to stop focusing on just how do we keep some presence inside the AI system? How do we stay in the loop? That's just not a defensible long-term strategy anymore.
Okay. So that pushes us right back to the value question then. If we're being pushed out of the loop for many tasks, what unique value do we bring? What's left that can't be easily codified and automated?
And this is where we have to be careful not to just grab the next shiny object. We need to move beyond the superficial search for quick fixes. We've already seen this happen, haven't we?
How so?
Well, think about skills that were hyped up just, what, a year or so ago.
Yeah.
Hailed as the next big thing, only to be nearly automated away already.
You mean like prompt engineering? I remember that was suddenly the hottest job title. People
Yeah.
were paying serious money for courses on how to talk to LLMs just right.
Exactly. Learning the specific syntax, the tricks to get the best output. And now,
Well, now the interfaces are getting better, more intuitive.
right, the models themselves are improving rapidly at understanding natural language.
Mm.
They self-optimize based on context. So that very specific niche skill of prompt engineering, its value as a high-paid specialty is, let's say, plummeting.
Yeah.
The source material really nails this. It says, kind of Riley, sure, ditch the prompt engineering. Then what?
Yeah.
It just perfectly illustrates that chasing these very specific, easily learned, easily replicated technical skills. It's like running on a treadmill. You work hard, but you don't really get anywhere long term.
So if those technical skills are fleeting, like prompt engineering was, we have to turn inward, don't we? We have to tackle that really fundamental, almost existential question the source puts out there for today's worker. So what actually makes you, you? You've got to define that value that can't be replaced.
And this is where we need to get beyond the corporate jargon, the personal branding stuff.
What do you mean?
The material is very clear about what isn't enough anymore. Especially, it notes, when you're working in digital spaces. That easy answer, just build your personal brand well, that's easily mimicked too.
How so?
The source says it's more than showing up with your favorite color, brand ideas, and natural way of speaking.
Ah, okay. So if your uniqueness can basically be summarized in a marketing brief or a style guide,
Yeah, or a tone of voice document, a logo.
then an AI could probably replicate it pretty convincingly tomorrow.
That's the risk. We need something more foundational, something inherent.
Okay.
So if we accept the premise that AI will eventually handle most of the tasks that can be clearly designed and codified,
Which seems increasingly likely for many roles.
right, then the conclusion the sources reach is, well, it's pretty provocative, but I think it's deeply insightful. It says, the next wave of upskills will be the very thing that makes you you.
The very thing that makes you you.
Yeah, it's not about learning another external tool or a new technique. It's about digging deep, identifying, and then actually leveraging elements of your core foundational human identity.
Okay, but hang on, that seems incredibly soft. You know,
Yeah.
if I go into my performance review and say, my big upskill this year is working on my foundational identity.
Yeah, you might get some strange looks. I get that.
So how do we bridge that gap? How do we
Okay.
translate this fairly abstract idea of identity into actual skills? Skills that are valuable, maybe even monetizable, and that AI genuinely struggles with.
That's the critical challenge, absolutely. And materials do suggest a way forward. We need to reframe these inherently human traits not as soft skills, but as critical, hard-edged professional assets in this new landscape.
Okay. Oh.
We can think about this inherent identity manifesting in maybe 3 core competencies. And these aren't necessarily linear steps, but interconnected abilities that are demonstrably difficult for current AI and likely foreseeable AI to replicate well.
All right, let's hear them. What's the first one?
So the first is the capacity to create meaning. We could call it sense-making and narrative synthesis.
Sense making. Okay. Explain that.
AI is fantastic at data synthesis, right? It can combine, aggregate, summarize vast amounts of existing data points incredibly efficiently.
Sure. Finding patterns in the numbers.
Exactly. But it struggles profoundly with genuine sense-making. That requires more. It means connecting dots that aren't obviously linked in the data set. It means drawing on your unique life experience, your emotional context, using complex analogies.
To build a story around the data.
Precisely. To formulate a unique, compelling narrative about why this data actually matters, what it means beyond the numbers.
Okay, I think I see. So an AI looks at sales figures, market trends, competitor actions, and it tells me what happened. But the human leader, using sense-making, might connect those numbers to, say, a historical parallel or a subtle cultural shift they've observed, or even just a gut feeling based on years of experience.
Yes. And based on that, they weave a story, a narrative, that persuades the team or the client or the board that this is why we need to pivot, why we need to change strategy.
That ability to craft a unique story that resonates emotionally, that gives meaning to the data and inspires action.
That's human identity in action. That's leadership.
Yeah.
It's not just data analysis. It's meaning creation. AI is miles away from that.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second component of this essential human skill set?
The second is the ability to navigate ambiguity and complexity.
Right. AI likes clear rules, defined environments.
Exactly. AI performs brilliantly when the parameters are known, the environment is structured. But the real world, especially at higher levels of strategy or innovation, it's messy. It's full of unknowns, completely novel situations, conflicting information,
Situations where the data you need just doesn't exist yet.
or where the rules themselves are changing as you play the game. AI can manage calculated risk based on probabilities from past data. It has a much harder time with true, novel uncertainty,
So we're talking about the ability to make decisions when you don't have all the information.
and often when the stakes are very high. The ability to just sit with that discomfort, that ambiguity, and still forge a path forward, to design a solution that might need creative integration across completely different fields or departments.
That sounds like judgment, not just calculation.
It absolutely requires human judgment. It requires drawing on that accumulated wisdom, maybe even intuition that comes from diverse human experience. That's part of your unique identity shaping your approach.
Okay, you said the I word intuition. That always makes my skeptical side perk up a bit. How is professional intuition different from just making a guess?
That's a fair question, and it's really crucial we define it based on the research, not just, mystical feelings. Intuition, in this context, isn't random guessing. It's the result of years and years of nonlinear experience. It's subconscious pattern recognition, it's tacit knowledge, all that stuff. But you can't easily write down in a manual or code into an algorithm.
The knowing without knowing how you know kind of thing.
Exactly. And that leads us directly into the third essential skill area, which is closely related: contextual judgment and nonlinear thought.
Okay. Give us a practical example of that one. How does it differ from navigating ambiguity?
Think about managing people.
Huh.
Hiring, team building, conflict resolution, and AI can definitely rank job candidates based on keywords, qualifications, maybe even past performance data if it's available and structured.
Right. Optimize the candidate pool based on defined criteria.
Yes. But a skilled human manager often makes a different kind of judgment, a contextual judgment. They might assess cultural fit, which is complex and nuanced. They might see future potential in someone that goes way beyond the current job description.
Or they might anticipate how this person's specific personality quirks might interact positively or negatively with an existing team member who's, say, difficult but valuable.
Precisely. That holistic, nonlinear assessment of human potential, of team dynamics, of subtle social cues, that is something AI is just fundamentally ill-equipped to replicate effectively right now. It relies so heavily on emotional intelligence, social context, things that are constantly shifting and incredibly hard to quantify.
I see the distinction now. It feels like the difference between optimization, making the known process slightly better, which AI excels at, and originality, creating something new, or navigating the truly unknown, which requires these human elements.
That's a great way to put it.
Because if everything just gets optimized based on past data, we all become predictable, right? And if we're predictable,
We're potentially replaceable by something faster and cheaper at predicting. Originality, which is built on these deeper identity elements. Your unique way of making sense, navigating the unknown, making those contextual calls, that seems to be the only reliable way to introduce non-predictable and therefore non-automatable value.
so this really gets to the core argument from the sources.
It does. The material argues pretty strongly that finding and then actively leveraging that unique blend of human capacities, sense-making, ambiguity navigation, contextual judgment holds something of more value than just being a human in the loop.
It fundamentally shifts the goalposts.
Absolutely. It shifts the focus away from just being a necessary cog, maybe doing some marginal quality control inside the AI's process, toward being the irreplaceable architect outside of it, the one defining the purpose, the direction, the meaning behind the process.
Okay, the big picture takeaway here feels, well, undeniable, really. We have to fundamentally redirect our professional development focus.
Mm.
We need to stop obsessing over compliance, right? Over just blending in, learning the next easily codifiable skill like, I don't know, advanced pivot tables or basic data aggregation tools.
Skills that AI is rapidly mastering.
Yeah. And instead, we need to start focusing on understanding and cultivating what makes us, well, kind of messy, complex, maybe even unpredictable,
Yeah.
but uniquely valuable because of it.
It's definitely a challenge to how we've traditionally thought about career planning, isn't it?
Right.
Which almost always rewarded standardization, conformity, fitting the corporate mold.
But the economy, the technology, it's sending a very different signal now.
It really is. Conformity now looks like the fastest road to being automated. So the value proposition for us as professionals has to shift. It needs to move towards identifying, honing, and yes, even monetizing your inherent non-algorithmic human identity.
So wrapping this up, what does this really mean for you, the listener? It feels like we're being forced, in a good way maybe, to stop having those superficial chats about just be yourself.
Yeah, which often just meant be yourself, as long as it fits neatly into our predefined corporate box.
Exactly. And instead, we have to start seriously focusing on genuine, foundational human identity, that sense-making ability, the knack for navigating ambiguity, the power of nonlinear contextual judgment. These need to be seen as the truly indispensable career skills going forward.
The machine has automated the predictable.
So our job is to become genuinely original.
And that leaves us with a really important question for you to think about as you plan your next steps, your career moves.
Yeah.
If the future of work really does rely on embracing the very thing that makes you you, those deep, hard-to-copy identity elements we've been talking about,
Yeah.
how much time are you actually spending right now consciously defining and cultivating that unique, irreplaceable human value? What are the foundational parts of your identity? Maybe it's your intuition honed over years, your specific life experiences, your unique way of seeing the world and telling its story that AI is least equipped to replicate. Because that is where your real, future-proof upskilling journey truly begins.